Our society has countless images, ideas, and stereotypes about change agents, people who help an organization transform by improving business process and interpersonal interactions. Whether influencing fashion, business, art, entertainment, science, politics, or law, these change agents have and continue to positively impact today's society on so many levels. And today, we are proud to share the story of these business owners, coaches, innovators, and thought leaders from various industries who are eager to educate, inspire, and motivate you. This is Our Voices on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Our Voices, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Room 8, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model magazine. And this show is focused on highlighting the amazing work of powerful change agents who have a great message to share with the world. And today I'm really excited to speak with a woman that I know and I've worked with, and her name is Stacey Lorin Merkl. She's the founder and executive director of Realize Your Beauty. And today we're talking all about empowering our youth. So, who is Stacey? Stacey, as I said, is the founder and executive director of Realize Your Beauty. She's a native of Denver, Colorado. She holds a BA in theater arts and a BA in French from the University of Northern Colorado. She has taught theater and music to children and teens at various art centers in Colorado, Seattle, Paris, France, and New York City. Stacey founded Realize Your Beauty in 2010, combining her love of theater arts with her passion for social change and education. She's also a longtime volunteer for the National Eating Disorders Association, NEDA, and is a trained facilitator for NEDA's Body Project. She's a member of Endangered Bodies NYC, IAEDP Denver Chapter, International Association of Eating Disorder Professionals, AED, Academy for Eating Disorders, Colorado Nonprofit Association, and the American Camp Association. So without further ado, Stacey, how are you?
It's quite an introduction. Thank you, Natasha. I'm very well, thank you. I'm glad to be here tonight.
Good. I know. I love when we hear our bios and we're like, wow, who's that cool chick? Oh, yeah, that's me. That's awesome.
I'm sure you never have the opportunity to sort of read those things out loud to yourself. So yeah,
Exactly. So I guess for everyone listening, I'd love for you to just kind of break out how Realize Your Beauty came to be. What is the organization? What are the services and projects and that you guys offer? And, how did you end up doing this?
Great. Well, thank you for the question. How did I end up doing that? So, I guess just to begin, I'll share a little bit more about the organization. So, Realize Your Beauty promotes positive body image to youth through theater arts. So, to meet our mission, we travel to schools, festivals, local theaters, after-school programs, and we present educational plays, workshops, and we also have a series of summer camps, including a sleepaway camp that takes place in Colorado. All of our school year programs are based in New York City, and our summer camps are in Colorado. So that's what we do. We work with all ages under 18, programs for all genders. And how did we come to be? That's a great question. So I have a background in theater arts. I fell in love at a really young age, and I always knew at some capacity that would be part of my professional life. Mm-hmm. When I was around 14 years old, I had a mentor who had a nonprofit that used theater and music to help those infected with or affected by HIV and AIDS. And when I was 15, I began performing with his organization. So we would go to a children's home, and I would play and sing little kids' songs, mm-hmm. For the kids that were at the home. We would go to the hospital once a week and perform. So at a young age, when I was still kind of discovering who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, it was my first introduction to the fact that art can be used as a means for social change. Mm-hmm. And for me, that really changed everything. So after years of struggling with my own serious body image and eating disorder issues, at some point it became clear to me I wanted to spend my life empowering young people to feel good about themselves, to see their value, to understand their worth. And my skill set happened to be in theater and in the arts, so that was a natural path for me to use that in our work. So for all those reasons, in 2010, I founded Realize Your Beauty. So there we are.
I love it.
Here we are now.
Okay. So when it comes to body image, I mean, there's so many stats actually that you can see if you Google it. Our children are very displeased with themselves. I mean, I think even just recently I saw some stats about how majority of children will actually not do activities that they love because they're so self-conscious about how they look. Based on the work that you're doing and the girls and boys that you're working with, what are some of the reasons or things that they're saying to you and your organization about, why they struggle with confidence and feeling good about who they are?
Yeah, so we see a range of answers to that, and I think the truth is that is accurate because it's a combination of things. I think when you're young and you're trying to figure out who you are and your body is changing very rapidly, it is very challenging to feel comfortable in your own skin. And put on top of that, everything from our current culture and climate with the constant social media that young people are facing, that we growing up, we didn't have that additional pressure. And the pressures of bullying and peer pressure that doesn't just end when school's over. It really continues because of the social media, because of texting, because of this sort of constant connection and access children have to one another. I think there's just constant pressure on them from all angles to feel like they're not good enough as they are, and that they somehow need to change themselves to be accepted and to be worthy. And I think it's, for most young people, it's a lot. They're up against a lot.
So kind of like you're saying, so the nonstop factor of whether it's bullying or the imagery and media that is presented to them, it's ongoing. And what about the household? Do you hear the girls or boys even say things about their bodies similar to maybe what their parents are saying or what their parents are saying to them?
Yeah, so that's a really good point because that is also something I see a mix. I know every once in a while we do have young people that really have a very positive experience at home, and maybe they, have difficulty at school, but their parents really are their biggest kind of advocates in terms of self-love and self-acceptance. But even in those cases, it's very difficult to continue that message through the school day. But more often than not, what we find is that young people really do hear their parents, that also a lot of parents suffer from poor self-image as well. It's certainly not just a problem that ends in your adolescence, it carries on. And mentors and parents in the home life have, I would say, probably one of the biggest influences on how children perceive themselves, especially if there's similarities between yourself and your parent or your mentor. And there's a huge correlation between hearing negative self-talk at home from your parent. And a lot of times parents will tell young people, well, you should love yourself. You should, you should feel good about yourself. But then they don't think about that from their own perspective, and they put themselves down and they criticize themselves in the mirror, and they don't realize that that's being picked up, and young people take that to heart.
Absolutely. You are listening to Our Voices on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse, and my guest today is Stacey Lorin Merkl, the founder and executive director of Realize Your Beauty. Absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about, parents and people in kind of leadership roles when it comes to children. And I remember growing up hearing various forms of negative self-talk from a parent or a relative, and it definitely, I remember it deeply affecting how I viewed my body, how I viewed beauty, and it's disturbing because it's a part of it is like, you know, like you're saying, like you can empower a child, but then that empowerment, you know, moment or phase can totally dissipate once they go to school or once they, you know, have some traumatic experience happen. So I guess with the theater, I'd love for you to explain a little bit of how are they using this social justice to kind of figure out ways to feel better about themselves. Are they sharing, creating stories? Like, break that out.
Sure. So we have a variety of ways that we incorporate theater. To begin, we perform different productions for young people, and that's really effective because they're connecting to the characters and they're involved in the stories emotionally, not just cognitively. So rather than just showing them a PowerPoint and sort of talking at them, they have the opportunity to really connect to the characters in the show and go through their journey and relate. You know, we hope the goal for us is that there's a character in the show that really everybody in the audience can at least relate to somebody on stage and go through that journey with them. We have opportunities where in our longer workshops and in our sleepaway camp, young people have the opportunity to create their own shows and their own skits and perform them for their peers. And in the case of our sleepaway camp, perform them for their parents. And in those opportunities, they really get to get involved on even a deeper level because they can then write their own pieces and create their own characters and perform them, and, you know, get even more involved in that journey. So we find it's a very effective way to teach young people.
Very cool. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you see or deal with when trying to help a child kind of connect with the theater and have it resonate with them?
You know, it's interesting because when we first started our programs, I was, well, of course, as anybody would be, I was worried because you don't know. You have it in your mind how you want the workshops to look and how you want it to go. And my biggest fear was that the students would not want to participate because, you know, these are sensitive issues and some students might have a strong reaction to talking about, you know, personal things that they're not used to exploring or sharing. And so you can have an hour-long workshop planned, and if nobody's participating, that's, you know, it's going to be a long hour. So that was my fear. But I have to say, in the years that we have been doing this, I have really not had that experience. I have, by and large, had the experience that students are very eager to talk about these issues, and they've been waiting for the opportunity to have these discussions, and they're embracing the theater aspect, they're embracing the topic, and so I would say that I've been surprised by that, but it's something I've seen consistently. I will say that we work a lot with small groups, both in number, but also in the sense that groups that tend to have some connection to one another, such as community groups, after-school programs, or, you know, smaller groups of students at schools, just because of the nature of the way our workshops are formulated. So I think if we were going into large public school settings with, you know, 200 kids, for example, trying to have these conversations, I think it would be a different story. I don't think we'd be able to have the kind of, I want to say intimacy, but I just mean the level of safety and non-judgment that we're able to create in groups of, 15, 20, 30 students.
Gotcha. Okay. You are listening to Our Voices. My name is Natasha Nurse. More with my guest, Stacey Lorin Merkl, the founder and executive director of Realize Your Beauty.